Hello, my dear students. How are you all? I hope you are fine and safe. I am S. Bhubadi, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Kovai Kalaimagal College of Science and Management. In today's session, we are going to learn a new short story called An Astrologist's Day by R.K. Narayan. Let's get into the story. So this is the picture of An Astrologist's Day written by R.K. Narayan. So let's move on to the author introduction. And this picture is the real picture of Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Narayan, so-called R.K. Narayan. The short story An Astrologist's Day by R.K. Narayan follows a man posing as an astrologer meeting the man once tried to kill. Originally published in Hindi, the piece, along with 29 other short stories by Narayan, was first published in English in 1947. The short story contains strong themes that are apparent through Narayan's creative work, including deception, revenge, and the ironies of life. An Astrologist's Day combines suspense, realism, and thriller genres. Let's get into the introduction of the short story An Astrologist's Day. An Astrologist's Day is a story from the Indian author R.K. Narayan's 1943 collection Malkudi Days. Malkudi Days is a fictional setting created by R.K. Narayan. The story is about a man who runs away from his home and pretends to be an astrologer after imagining that he has committed a murder. This story tells about the past and revenge and why we make decisions that we make in our lives. These are all the major concepts we will discuss in this story. Let's move on to the characters. So basically we have three main characters in this short story. The first character, an astrologer, he is the protagonist of the play. In the beginning, he has run away from his village and he just take another job as a fake astrologer. He was not a real astrologer. He just disguised himself in order to escape from his past crimes. And next character, we have Guru Nayak. Guru Nayak is a stranger who approaches the astrologer and asked for his present search and astrology. And finally, we have another character, astrologer's wife, who was so kind and appeared in the end of the story. And these are all the major characters. The major setting of this story is a town hall park, and the day is midday to midnight. So these are all the introduction about the characters and the settings. Okay, let's move on to the plot summary. The story begins in the midday when astrologist is seated under a tamarind tree in the town hall park. He spread out his professional equipments, which consisted of a dozen Kovai shells, a square piece of cloth with obscure mystic charts on it, and a notebook and a bundle of Palmyra writing. These are all the professional equipments of astrologers. So with these items, he can cover up the area and he can manage that he can call as an astrologer. And next, he has a professional look for that particular job, that astrologer role. So he has to do some physical makeup to attract the customer. So he wore a saffron turban around his head and his eyes sparkled with a sharp gleam, and his forehead was covered with the sacred ash and vermilion. So this color combination never failed to attract the people to him. So these are all the physical appearance of the astrologer to attract the customers and make them to get these favor words. And next, there are some other variety of tradesmen. There are some other variety of tradesmen who nearby walking in the town hall park. They are medicine sellers who sells medicines, and next the sellers of stolen goods like hardwares and junks, and magicians, and the auctioneers of cheap cloth. And the next to the astrologer, there is a vendor of fried groundnuts, and he has a fancy name for his product to attract the people, and he uses the fancy name and changes the fancy name day by day. At first it's called a Bombay ice cream, and next a Delhi almond, and then he called it a Raja's delicacy. So these are all the fancy names given to the fried groundnuts sold by the vendor of groundnuts. And there was no municipal lights in the streets, so people can only use some alternative gas lights to approach the customers. And at the same time, the astrologer was not a real astrologer. He was once from a village and escaped from an incident, and in order to hide himself from the society, he managed to get the role of astrologer. He had left his ancestral house in the village many years ago without telling anyone. And how did he manage to become an astrologer? Means he has a working analysis of mankind's struggles and troubles such as marriages and money issues and tangles of human ties. These are all his professional skills to manage the customer to accept his words about their future. And he has some tricks. That's he allowed the customer to speak for 10 minutes without saying anything, and then he would gaze at the customer's palm and saying some attraction words, some facts. Those are not facts, but these are all some words to make the customers believe in his astrology. The words like, there is not enough credits from your efforts. And he questions about a woman in their distant relation who is not favor for them. And then finally, he also questioned the impetuous nature which leads them to become an unsuccessful. So these are all the common problems human faced in their lives. So with these questions, he attracts the customers to believe in him. And these are all the work and the physical professional skills of the astrologer. And next, the astrologer in the midday, the astrologer works very hard, and at the end of the day, the nuts winter blew out his flame, and the astrologer began to bundle up his things. In the evening time, there is no proper lighting which make him to continue his work. That's why he decided to bundle up. But at the time, he was suddenly stopped by a stranger, and he called the stranger to get the astrology and his favor words for his future. And finally, he realized that he made a terrible mistake. The astrologer spots that man and invites him to sit with him and have the fortune read. But the strangers look uncomfortable. The stranger calls into doubt the abilities of the astrologer and challenges him. He will give him an Anna, but if the astrologer answer is unsatisfactory, the astrologer must pay him the Anna back with interest. Finally, they negotiate, and the stranger agrees to pay the astrologer 8 annas if he gives him a satisfactory answer. The stranger lit a cheroot, and the astrologer caught a glimpse of his face by the matchlight. The man sat down, sucking his cheroot and puffing out. And then the astrologer felt uncomfortable. He decided to bundle up his things and ask him to meet him the day after. But the stranger held his wrist and said, "You can't get out of this now. We have a challenge. You have to tell the astrology." So the astrologer decided to answer the question of the stranger about his present search. And he tells that astrologer also identified that the man was stabbed and then he was thrown into well when he left for dead. And he also tells the name. His name is Guru Nayak. The astrologer said that there is a knife passed through your chest and you are left for dead. Am I right? And the Guru Nayak is your name, the astrologer said. The stranger was astonished. "How could you tell that?" "You're right. Go ahead. And tell me about my present search." And the astrologer replied, "Don't worry about your enemy. He was dead 4 months ago. He was crushed under a lorry in a far off village. And don't worry about your enemy." And he also warned him to go to a place and never return and never decide to travel on the south side. Finally, the stranger was shocked and he tried to confirm the status of his enemy and asked about his enemy again. "I said he was crushed under a lorry 4 months ago and never traveled to a southward." And finally, Guru Nayak was happy and he gave the annas to the astrologer. And then the astrologer got all the coins, and after Guru Nayak leaving the place, he bundled up his things and decided to get away from him. And finally, the astrologer reached his home with relief. And in his home, his wife, astrologer's wife, asked him about the delay. And finally, the coins, the annas given by the Guru Nayak was given to astrologer's wife. She counted that, and nearly 12 and a half annas was the amount given by the Guru Nayak. And finally, astrologer was frustrated. He gave him more. He should give him more. But he just tricked me. Okay, that's enough. And astrologer's wife was also satisfied because she thought that this money is enough for her to buy jaggery and coconut to make sweets for the children. And after dinner, astrologer sat on the place and he decided to speak about the day. And he thought he was so relieved, but because he was the person who attempted a murder and stabbed Guru Nayak and thrown him to the well. And he escaped from the village and reached this town. And in order to escape from police, he just changed his appearance and everything and decided to work as an astrologer. And after that, he married his wife, and he became a family man. So this is the incident exactly happened, and he explained it to his wife, and he finally go for a bed with a relief. So this is the end of the story. And so The astrologer finally escaped from his enemy without knowing he was the one who stabbed him. And he tricked him to never return to the town again. So, this is the cleverness of the astrologer which saved him from his enemy, Guru Nanak. So, this is the finest story ever written by R.K. Narayan. In this story, the cleverness of the astrologer saved him from his enemy, and he finally get a fine sleep, and the story ends. So, what will be the theme? The theme of the story is a message wants to convey to the readers. There are two central themes in Astrologer's Day. The first one theme is revenge. Guru Nanak letting his feelings of revenge run his life. When the astrologer was a young one, he was in the village and he enjoyed a lot drinking, gambling, and roaming with his friends. At the time, with one clash, he attacked Guru Nanak and stabbed him and thrown him to well. And after that, realizing that he has committed a murder, he decided to run away from his home. He left his ancestral house and lands without doing anything and decided to run away from a house and settled in town. So after that, the Guru Nanak was alive and he decided to take revenge on the astrologer. And finally he reached the town and he faced his enemy, but instead of getting revenge, he gave him annas. So revenge is one of the themes in this story. And second theme is cleverness. The cleverness of the astrologer leads him to trick his enemy to give him annas instead of attacking him. The astrologer has to be very clever in his entire life to succeed in his job. His professional skills, he was not a real astrologer, but his professional skills made him an astrologer. He looked into the eyes of the customer with a gleam and he observed their words for 10 minutes. He didn't speak anything for the 10 minutes. He allowed his customers to speak for 10 minutes. After that, he observed their qualities and gave a general misfortunes and general troubles of human. Just like not enough credit for their efforts and their family issues, egos, jealousy, like that. And it was only when he was challenged by Nayak and this ability was really put into the test. It was the final challenge faced by the astrologer. If he failed to answer, he had to return the amount with interest. He was facing his enemy, but he wasn't panic. He just looked into the eyes of his enemy and told the lie with a fine manner as an astrologer, and that leads him to escape from his enemy. So this is the fine short story which helps us to know how cleverness leads one to be a successful person, leads one to escape from all his misfortunes. So this is the story of a cleverness which make a person to face anything, to attain any impossible tasks. So this is another theme expressed by R.K. Narayan. So this short story is a fine and beautiful short story, and the climax is very important. He tricked his enemy to get back to his town and never return. And a murderer facing a murdered person is another cleverest task ever faced by a man. So that's it from the story, and we have learned how cleverness help you to face your problems. Is the main story. So thank you. Thank you for giving this wonderful opportunity, and I hope you have enjoyed the session and learned a lot. Thank you.